Elias Ward's hands were bound with chains that hummed with alien energy, but the sensation of powerlessness did not overwhelm him. Not yet. Around him, the throne chamber stretched vast and cold, a cathedral of steel and alien architecture that seemed alive with quiet whispers. Towering above him, the walls were etched with patterns that shifted in the light, forming shapes his human mind could not name. Hundreds of eyes, both biological and mechanical, watched his every movement. The air smelled faintly metallic, like blood left in the sun, and the chill ran through his bones. He had been captured days ago, along with the last evacuation of humans from the frontier system of Lysara. The alien fleet had crushed the resistance there in hours. Entire stations, entire colonies, reduced to husks. And yet here he was, alive, being dragged before the ruler of 1,000 enslaved worlds. Most humans would have broken under the humiliation, under the fear, under the hopelessness. But Elias did not feel fear, not like the others. There was only a quiet, simmering awareness, a part of him that understood why he had survived. The throne itself was massive, carved from a single black mineral that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. On it sat the alien queen, her form both regal and terrifying. She was taller than any human by at least half a meter, her skin a reflective gray, almost liquid in appearance. Her face was elongated, with eyes like molten silver, and her crown was not a mere decoration but a living structure, twisting and shifting as if it were a separate being. Every inch of her presence screamed dominance. She did not speak at first. She did not need to. Silence filled the chamber like a tide, washing over Elias, testing him. Elias was pushed to his knees before her, chains clanking against the floor. The guards, strange insected creatures with 4 arms and sharp, chitinous fingers, leaned forward, their mandibles clicking in anticipation. Around the room, thousands of spectators waited, military commanders, priests, nobles, and slaves, all bearing witness to what they assumed would be humanity's final humiliation. The queen finally spoke, her voice a melody that vibrated in the chest and ears alike. "You are human." The statement was not a question. It was an observation, as if centuries of study had been compressed into a single utterance. "You are far from your home world, you have fought, and yet you are here kneeling." Something had caught her attention, something unusual. She tilted her head, her expression shifting from curiosity to something else, a flicker of recognition. The chamber fell into a hush so complete that Elias could hear the faint hum of the chains around his wrists. He looked down at his own arm almost absent-mindedly. There, etched into his skin, was a symbol. Not a tattoo, not a brand, not a mark any human would normally bear. It glowed faintly beneath the surface of his skin, lines curving and intersecting in ways that felt older than time itself. He had carried it unknowingly all his life, a birthmark that had been dismissed as nothing more than a strange pattern. But here, under the cold scrutiny of the queen, it shone as if alive. The queen froze. The guards paused. Even the buzzing of the observation devices seemed to hesitate. For the first time, the alien monarch spoke words that carried a weight beyond mere command. Her voice was lower now, softer, yet it filled the chamber in a way that silenced all others. "So, you've come, human." The generals exchanged uncertain glances, the priests muttered prayers, and the slaves pressed together, eyes wide with awe and terror. No one moved. None dared interrupt. The queen had stopped an execution with a single phrase, a single recognition. Elias' own heart beat faster, not from fear, but from understanding. The symbol he carried was not just a mark. It was a sign of something far older, something the galaxy had long forgotten. It was the covenant mark, a symbol whispered about in ancient texts, said to belong to humans not as conquerors, but as judges. He did not know why it had activated now, only that it had. He could feel its power humming through him, subtle but undeniable, a quiet current that promised change. The queen leaned back on her throne, her hands resting on the armrests, which themselves pulsed faintly as if alive. "You carry the mark," she said, more to herself than anyone else. Her voice carried a mix of reverence and fear, an emotion few in her court had ever witnessed. "It has been centuries since I last saw it." The spectators did not understand, but they could feel the shift. The energy in the room changed, subtle but unmistakable. The chains that bound him no longer seemed to weigh him down. Instead, they hummed as if acknowledging his presence. The queen's gaze moved from him to the assembled court. "Do not mistake him for weak," she said. "Do not underestimate what humanity carries." Her voice was sharp now, slicing through the murmurs like a blade. "He is no prisoner, he is a symbol, and symbols have power that even kings cannot control." Shall we proceed with the execution? The priests looked at one another nervously, unsure if they had misread ancient prophecies. And the slaves, so long crushed by oppression, felt a strange flicker of hope, though they could not explain it. Elias stood slowly, chains clattering against the floor, and the queen's gaze followed him with unblinking attention. He felt the hum of the mark intensify, a subtle rhythm that synced with his heartbeat. He did not know exactly what would happen next, only that the moment had shifted. The balance of power in the room and perhaps in the galaxy had changed. "Tell me," the queen said, her voice softer now, curious rather than commanding, "who sent you? Why have you come?" "I came because it is time." The queen studied him for a long moment, and then, to everyone's surprise, she gestured for the guards to step back. "Very well," she said, her voice carrying a weight that made the generals hesitate. "You will speak, and I will listen. But understand this, human, what comes next may not be what you expect. The galaxy has long believed humanity to be weak, simple, easily subdued. That belief will end tonight." Humanity had only been waiting, and now, for the first time, the galaxy was about to wake. The queen leaned back, her silver eyes never leaving him. The chamber remained silent, the guards tense, the spectators frozen in anticipation. And Elias knew in that charged stillness that the moment had come when the legend of humanity would begin to take shape, not with fire or weapons, but with a presence, a mark, and an unwavering will. He could see the change already in the queen's expression. She had seen the symbol, and she had understood its meaning. It was not a weapon she feared. It was the inevitable. Then Elias said quietly, almost to himself, "Let us begin." It was the beginning of something far greater, something the galaxy had not seen in countless millennia. The alien queen, ruler of 1,000 worlds, had frozen, and for the first time in her reign, she had felt something she could neither control nor ignore. The chamber remained quiet long after Elias spoke. The queen's silver eyes did not leave him, her thoughts unreadable but her attention absolute. Around them, the alien court shifted nervously. Generals and priests muttered among themselves, unsure whether they had witnessed a miracle, a trick, or something more dangerous. The mark on Elias' arm glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath his skin, as if responding to the tension in the room. Elias allowed himself a deep breath. He had been here before, in countless battles and desperate moments, forced to negotiate when all odds were against him. Yet this was unlike any other. He was no longer just a soldier or a survivor. He carried something far older than the weapons in their hands, a symbol that had survived time itself. The queen broke the silence. "This mark," she said, her voice quiet but sharp, "it is the covenant mark. It should not exist in this era. Humans have been thought too weak, too fragmented, too insignificant to bear it. I thought it was just a birthmark, something strange, maybe a story, but it seems it is not ordinary. Centuries before even the oldest of my species rose to power, humans shaped planets, altered civilizations, and judged those who strayed too far. Those who restored balance when chaos became too great. Your species was underestimated, forgotten. Yet the mark endures, waiting for the moment when it is needed again. Empires grow arrogant, species enslave one another, and now humans appear again." She paused, as if weighing her next words carefully. "Do you understand the responsibility of what you carry? What it has not seen is what humans can do when they choose to act together." The priests whispered prayers to their gods, uncertain whether to bless him or fear him, and the slaves, long resigned to hopelessness, felt a flicker of something they had not felt in centuries, hope. The queen leaned forward, her hands gripping the armrests. "Tell me, human," she said, "how is it possible that your species survived at all? My records show your worlds broken, your fleets destroyed, your colonies enslaved. And when the time is right, we act in ways that others cannot predict. As if even in defeat, you hold the game in your hands. Because you thought it was easy, because you thought we were weak." The glow intensified, subtle at first, then stronger, as if calling out to something unseen across the stars. In distant systems, human colonies and hidden settlements felt a stir, an awakening. The queen sensed it, too. She stiffened on her throne, as if the air itself carried a warning she could not ignore. "You have something far older than my empire," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "It is not a weapon I can destroy. It is legacy, and I have spent centuries avoiding it. There are many like me. We endure, we survive, we act when necessary. And now, the galaxy is unbalanced. It needs judgment, it needs correction." She could command armies, control fleets, enforce laws across systems, yet she felt something unfamiliar, a fear not of death but of inevitability. The humans were not just a race to be defeated. They were a force of judgment, a tide that no empire could hold back once it began to rise. One of her generals stepped forward, audacious despite the tension. "Majesty," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "this human speaks of power we cannot understand. Do we act, or do we?" His words faltered as the queen's eyes fixed him in place. "Do nothing," she said sharply. "For now, he is not a threat to be destroyed. He is a herald, and the galaxy has yet to understand what he carries." Other commanders whispered to each other, trying to make sense of the situation. Across the room, priests murmured prayers, some fearful, some awed. Slaves leaned closer, their eyes wide, sensing a shift in the world around them that they had thought impossible. Elias took a small step forward. "You do not need to fear humans," he said. "We are not conquerors, we are observers. We do not act out of hatred or anger. We act out of understanding. We act to preserve what is important, to restore balance where it is broken." How can you act together when you have no central command, no unified army? "You will see it soon." It was a signal, subtle but powerful, that reached across light years. Somewhere in the human colonies, dormant networks began to stir. Communications that had been thought destroyed flickered back to life. Hidden settlements prepared to act. Even enslaved humans felt a surge of energy they could not explain, a collective awareness that something was beginning. The queen's eyes narrowed. "It seems," she said quietly, "that your presence here is more dangerous than I imagined." The galaxy had believed humans to be defeated, controlled, and insignificant. But the truth was far more powerful. Humanity had survived, adapted, and now, awakened, it would not be ignored. The queen finally rose from her throne, her towering form casting long shadows across the chamber. "You have changed the balance," she said softly. "And the galaxy may never be the same again." And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy knew that humanity was not to be underestimated. The alien queen watched him, and for the first time she felt uncertainty. Not fear of combat, not fear of rebellion, but fear of inevitability. The humans were patient, adaptive, and enduring. They carried a legacy the galaxy had long forgotten. And now that legacy had returned. Elias stood alone, chains still clinking softly, Mark glowing, eyes calm. The galaxy had been silent for too long. And the moment of awakening had begun. The galaxy was not quiet anymore. It had been a long silence, a false peace under alien rule, but now a subtle pulse ran through human systems, an unspoken signal, a stirring that could not be ignored. It began in hidden colonies, in the secret stations abandoned after the first wars, and in the hearts of humans who had long been enslaved. The symbol on Elias' arm had activated something older than memory, something that linked humans across light years, binding them in a shared awareness. Elias walked through the throne chamber of the alien flagship, unshackled now but fully aware of the queen's gaze. She had not given him freedom, not fully. He was still her prisoner, and yet, for the first time, she studied him with more caution than command. Her generals shifted uneasily, whispering among themselves. They had fought humans before and had expected them to be broken, expendable, and predictable, but Elias' presence proved otherwise. "They are waking," he said quietly, almost to himself. The queen's silver eyes narrowed. "Who?" "And when humans remember, empires crumble. Humans act because it is necessary, because it is right. When enough of us act together, change becomes inevitable. You will see it." Humans began to share knowledge, techniques, and strategies faster than alien forces could track. In places where alien administrators had believed control absolute, rebellion sparked quietly. Devices intended to monitor and enslave humans failed inexplicably, technology repurposed by minds the Empire could not anticipate. On the flagship, the Queen sensed it. She could feel the subtle shift, the energy in the universe bending slightly as humans began to act. Her generals, however, did not understand it. They saw only small anomalies, scattered incidents, nothing coordinated, and yet their instincts told them that something vast was stirring. One of the generals, a towering figure with jagged armor plates, approached her cautiously. "Majesty," he said, "there are reports from several systems. Human activity unusual. Unauthorized transmissions, weapon systems reactivated, networks we believed destroyed are functioning. Should we deploy fleets to suppress them?" "You fear it," he said, "not because it is loud or violent, but because it is inevitable. Humanity does not need your permission, your technology, or your approval. We endure, we adapt, and now we are awake. They had survived long after their colonies were lost, long after their fleets were destroyed, long after the galaxy had declared them extinct. They were resilient, patient, and cunning in ways she could not fully measure. In one of the occupied colonies on Lysara Prime, a young human engineer named Mara felt the pulse first. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but it carried through her veins like an electric whisper. Her eyes widened as systems long thought dead came alive under her touch. Machines she had been unable to repair for years now responded instinctively. Communications channels, destroyed by the alien invaders, suddenly transmitted her voice across the stars. "They are waking," she whispered. Others in her hidden team looked up, unsure if they had heard her correctly. Then one by one they felt it too, the spark of awareness, the connection to something far older than themselves. The mark they carried, a faint birthmark on each of them, pulsed in rhythm with their heartbeat. Back on the flagship, Elias watched the Queen's reaction. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "Yes," she admitted softly. "It is not your fleet, not your weapons. It is something I cannot control, something I feared existed only in legend. When the balance of the universe is broken, when injustice spreads too far, the Covenant awakens. Sabotaging supply lines, freeing prisoners, rerouting fleets, all quietly coordinated without anyone fully understanding how. Alien administrators scrambled, attempting to respond, but their predictions failed. Humans adapted faster than their simulations could calculate. Every attempt to suppress the rising resistance only made humans more creative, more determined, more effective. The Queen observed this with a growing sense of unease. She had faced species that relied on numbers, on brute force, on intricate technology, yet none of them could do what humans were doing. Their strength was subtle, pervasive, and intelligent. It was a power that could not be contained, a ripple that could not be stopped. Elias walked through the chamber again, chains of a ceremonial nature no longer binding him. "The galaxy has underestimated humans for centuries," he said. "They thought fear, weapons, and slavery could control us. They were wrong. We adapt, we endure, and when necessary, we act. You have awakened your kind, and yet you are alone here. What is your plan?" "That is our nature. That is what the Covenant has always meant." That was their true power, one that no army, no weapon, no fleet could match. In another system, a group of human scientists and engineers activated long-dormant stations, repurposing alien technology to communicate across light years. Entire fleets that had been scattered now coordinated through methods their captors could not trace. Humans in hiding began to share strategies and resources, forming a silent network of resistance that grew stronger by the hour. The Queen watched Elias, realizing that what she had thought was a single anomaly was actually the beginning of a coordinated awakening. The humans were patient, resilient, and connected in ways her species could not comprehend. The galaxy had not seen the full extent of their strength, and it was coming alive now. Elias' voice cut through the chamber again. "You cannot stop this," he said quietly. "You may command fleets, armies, and technology, but you cannot command endurance, intelligence, or principle. Humans will survive, adapt, and act when the time is right. The galaxy will learn that humanity cannot be underestimated." In each hidden corner, in each enslaved colony, they acted with intelligence and purpose. Alien sensors failed, communications were rerouted, fleets were repurposed, and prisoners freed. It was not a rebellion in the traditional sense. It was something more profound, humanity awakening to its true nature, the Covenant manifesting across light years. Elias turned toward the Queen one last time. "Do you see it now?" he asked. She studied him, her silver eyes reflecting both fear and awe. "I see it," she said. "I see a force older and stronger than I imagined. I see humanity." Humans did not merely fight. They endured, they adapted, they connected. And now the galaxy was awakening to their presence once more. Elias stood tall, calm, and unwavering. The mark on his arm pulsed softly, the glow faint but constant, signaling to every human across the stars. The awakening had begun, and no empire, no matter how vast, could stop it. The alien queen rose slowly, towering above the chamber, her expression unreadable but her awareness acute. For centuries, she had ruled with certainty, believing she understood the galaxy. But now, with humans rising quietly yet unstoppable across countless systems, she realized she had underestimated them. The galaxy was no longer silent. The humans were awake. And Elias, carrying the mark older than empires, knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had grown quiet under the rule of the alien empire. For decades, humans had been scattered, enslaved, or thought extinct. Entire colonies had fallen, entire fleets had been destroyed, and most of humanity's knowledge had been erased. Yet now, as Elias Ward walked through the shadowed corridors of the Queen's flagship, he could feel it, the subtle awakening of a species that had been underestimated for centuries. Every human colony he had ever been part of had survived because humans were adaptable. They were patient. They endured when all seemed lost, learning, observing, waiting for the right moment. And now the moment was approaching. The symbol etched into his skin pulsed faintly, a gentle rhythm that no alien eye could fully understand, but one that humans across the galaxy would feel deep in their bones. It was a signal, quiet but insistent, calling the remnants of humanity to rise. On the flagship, the alien queen remained seated upon her massive black throne. Her silver eyes followed Elia's with a mixture of curiosity and unease. She had faced threats before, rebellions, wars, even assassination attempts. But there was something about this human that unsettled her in a way she could not articulate. The mark on his arm, glowing faintly beneath his skin, was not a weapon, and yet it radiated authority and inevitability. "You are awakening something far older than your people realize," the Queen said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "How can a single human carry so much power? And when necessary, we act together. That is our strength. That is your mistake." He flexed his hand, feeling the chains of ceremonial restraint around his wrists clink softly. "Humans survive because we think beyond survival. We think ahead. We plan, we adapt, and we endure. And when enough of us remember who we are, we cannot be stopped." On Lysara Prime, in a hidden underground facility, Mara, a young engineer, noticed something strange. Machines long dormant flickered to life. Communications arrays, buried for decades, hummed faintly. Devices she had once thought useless began to respond instinctively to her touch. Something was awakening within her, a quiet energy that seemed to connect her to every human who had survived. She traced the faint symbol on her wrist, barely noticeable, glowing in time with a pulse she could not explain. "They are waking," she whispered to her companions. The others looked up, eyes wide, as they felt it too. A shared awareness spread through them, subtle but undeniable. They had survived, yes, but now survival meant something more. It meant action. Back aboard the flagship, Elias could sense it. The symbol on his arm pulsed, sending a resonance he could not fully control, and yet he understood its purpose. It was awakening his people, calling them across light years, reminding them of what humans had once been and what they could be again. The Queen rose from her throne, her towering form casting long shadows across the chamber. She had studied civilizations for centuries, judged their strengths, calculated their weaknesses. Yet the humans were something different. They were patient, intelligent, adaptable. They did not rely on brute force alone. They did not wait for orders. They acted because it was necessary. And that, more than any fleet, more than any weapon, made them dangerous. "You are unlike any species I have ruled," she said, her voice low and cautious. "You do not fight as others fight. You survive, you endure, you learn, and now you awaken at a moment I cannot control. Observers, that is our true strength." Communications systems once destroyed flickered to life, allowing humans to share information faster than alien sensors could track. Technologies the invaders had thought theirs now responded to humans instinctively. Fleets once scattered and powerless reorganized quietly, preparing for coordinated action that the Empire could neither anticipate nor comprehend. The Queen sensed it, too. Across the flagship and its orbiting systems, subtle anomalies occurred. Fleet movements faltered, communications failed, and devices intended to monitor humans malfunctioned inexplicably. Something was shifting, and it was not her doing. The humans were not fighting yet, they were awakening, and awakening was more powerful than any assault. Elias walked slowly across the chamber, chains softly clinking. "They believed us defeated," he said. "They believed fear and enslavement could control us. They were wrong. We adapt. We endure, and when we act, it is precise, intelligent, unstoppable. Your species has no empire, no single command. You have survived in pieces, scattered across systems. How can you claim strength?" "You will see it." The alien empire, vast as it was, could not comprehend what was happening. On the flagship, the Queen's crown pulsed faintly. She had seen civilizations rise and fall, species destroy one another, empires collapse, yet nothing had prepared her for this. Humans did not rise with weapons first. They did not issue demands or threats. They awakened, and awakening was more powerful than force. Elias spoke again, calm and unwavering. They will see that humans endure. They will see that we adapt. They will see that when we act, it is for balance, not destruction. We are not conquerors. We are witnesses. We are judges. And when the galaxy is broken, we restore it. Your people scattered across light years. How can they act together without coordination? And it is unstoppable once begun. In hidden stations across the galaxy, humans continued to awaken. Systems once lost came online. Communications networks spread knowledge. Fleets that had been inert for decades began coordinated maneuvers. And yet no human empire had ordered it. No human leader had commanded it. The covenant the mark Elias carried was awakening his people, linking them across space, reminding them of what they were capable of. The queen rose, towering above her court. She realized that she had underestimated humanity. She had believed fear, force, and technology could dominate them, but humans were patient. Humans endured. Humans adapted. And now, awakened, they were unstoppable. Elias watched her carefully. "You see now," he said quietly. "The galaxy believed humans to be weak. That belief was wrong. We endure, we adapt, and we act when necessary. That is why we survive. That is why the Empire cannot control us." You are unlike any species I have ruled," she said finally. "You do not fight as others fight. You do not follow the rules I understand. You endure, adapt, and awaken. That is your power." Across the galaxy, humans had begun to awaken. The alien empire could not control it. The mark had awakened a species thought lost. The galaxy had been asleep, and now humanity had begun to stir. Elias stood tall, calm, resolute. The mark on his arm pulsed gently, signaling across the stars. The awakening had begun. The empire could sense it, but it could not stop it. Humanity was patient, adaptable, and enduring. The galaxy would learn once more that humans could not be underestimated. The alien queen watched him, her silver eyes reflecting both awe and uncertainty. She had faced countless threats, yet none had carried the inevitability of humans awakening. The galaxy had long forgotten them, but the humans had endured. Now they were awake. And the Empire would have to reckon with them. Elias glanced once more at the queen. "The galaxy has been silent for too long," he said. "It is time to awaken." Systems that had once been silent were alive with activity. Humans, scattered for centuries, moved with quiet precision, reconnecting, freeing colonies, and dismantling control networks the alien empire had believed unbreakable. Fleets that had been lost or scattered reassembled, not under a single commander, but through instinct, principle, and shared understanding. The covenant, the mark Elias carried, had awakened humanity fully, and with that awakening, the balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. Elias stood on the bridge of a captured alien command station, overlooking the rebuilt fleets of human ships now gathering in orbit. Each vessel was manned by humans who had survived countless hardships, yet now moved with purpose and confidence. They were not soldiers of conquest. They were instruments of restoration, guardians of what remained of humanity's freedom and the freedom of countless other species who had suffered under alien rule. The alien queen watched from her throne world as reports arrived from across her empire. Systems she had thought secure were slipping from her control. Fleets she had counted on to enforce her rule had turned, either destroyed or abandoned. Her advisors scrambled, their calculations failing to predict human actions. Even the most precise algorithms could not anticipate the intelligence, adaptability, and coordination that humans displayed. She realized that she was facing not a rebellion, but the awakening of a species that had survived in silence, hidden, and underestimated for centuries. Elias walked through the corridors of the station, observing humans as they worked. Engineers repaired ships at a pace that seemed impossible. Scientists reactivated old communication networks, connecting colonies across light years. Scouts charted safe routes and coordinated movement, all without centralized orders. Every human understood the principle: act to restore balance, act to protect the weak, act to reclaim freedom. In one corner, Mara oversaw a team rerouting alien sensors to prevent them from tracking human movement. "The Empire cannot see us yet," she said, "but they will. And when they do, they will realize we are not just surviving, we are awake." Her generals and advisors were tense, their fear visible. "The humans are everywhere," she said. "Their fleets, their colonies, their communication networks, nothing we control can stop them. They adapt faster than our fleets can respond. How do we fight a species that acts not for power but for principle? Majesty, we could deploy overwhelming force, crush the human fleets, annihilate the colonies, and strike fear into their leaders. That mistake cannot be repeated. Move carefully, act intelligently, and remember why we endure. We are here not for vengeance, but for justice and restoration. Alien fleets that attempted to intercept them found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn, not by superior weapons, but by human ingenuity, adaptability, and strategy. Humans thought in ways that their enemies could not predict. They turned weaknesses into strengths, used captured technology against its creators, and coordinated across light years without centralized command. The Queen watched reports pour in, her silver eyes reflecting both awe and fear. Humans were not just surviving, they were thriving in the face of impossible odds. She realized that she had underestimated humanity not because of their weapons or numbers, but because she had misjudged their true power: intelligence, endurance, adaptability, and moral principle. Ilias and Mara walked through the liberated sections of a former alien research station. Children who had been enslaved waved at them from safe zones. Adults looked at the humans with a mixture of awe and hope, seeing that the species they had dismissed as weak had returned stronger than ever. "This is what we endure for," Ilias said quietly. "Not glory, not conquest, not revenge, freedom. Balance, restoration, that is what humans do best. It is the legacy of our endurance and the symbol of what we can achieve when we act together. The galaxy will learn that humans cannot be underestimated." She realized that the galaxy's future had changed, not because of weapons, but because of a species that acted with intelligence, principle, and endurance. "They do not seek to dominate," she said aloud, almost to herself. "They act to restore, they endure, they adapt, and that is why they are unstoppable." She could attempt to annihilate humans, but that would only delay the inevitable. The Covenant, the mark Ilias carried, linked humans in ways she could not control. Destroying them would awaken even greater resistance. She understood, finally, that to fight them would be to challenge fate itself. Across liberated systems, humans continued their work. Colonies previously enslaved were re-establishing governance. Communication networks connected worlds across the galaxy. Fleets that had been scattered now coordinated actions that ensured stability and protection. They acted not as conquerors, but as guardians, preserving life, restoring freedom, and establishing balance where chaos had reigned. Ilias stood before his fleet, looking out at the stars. "This is the moment humanity has waited for," he said. "We have endured, we have survived, we have awakened. Now we move not for conquest, but for restoration. The galaxy will remember this day, not because humans fought, but because we acted as we were meant to act. With wisdom, endurance, and principle." The galaxy was witnessing the return of a species that had been underestimated for too long. The Queen, observing the human resurgence, understood the truth fully now. Humans were not a threat that could be crushed. They were a force of restoration, intelligence, and endurance. They acted for balance, not for power. That was their greatest strength, and the galaxy would remember it. Ilias stood at the front of his fleet, the symbol on his arm glowing steadily, a signal across light years. The Covenant had awakened humanity fully. Across liberated worlds, humans looked to the stars, ready to protect, restore, and endure. They had survived countless hardships, and now they were unstoppable not through violence, but through intelligence, principle, and unity. The alien Queen, once feared across the galaxy, watched the humans move with growing understanding. She realized that the galaxy had entered a new era, one where humans were not just survivors, but guardians, judges, and restorers. She understood that she could not stop them, and that the galaxy would never be the same again. Ilias turned to his fleet and spoke quietly but with authority that carried across the comms channels. "The galaxy has been silent for too long. Humanity has endured. Humanity has adapted. Humanity has awakened. Now we act, not for vengeance, not for conquest, but for the balance that the universe deserves. Let every world remember the strength of humans, not through fear, but through endurance, intelligence, and principle." The Covenant, the symbol older than empires, linked them all in a shared awareness of purpose. Humanity had risen fully, and the galaxy could no longer deny their presence. The alien Queen sighed, realizing the full scope of what she faced. Humans could not be destroyed, controlled, or contained. They acted according to principles older than the Empire itself. She had underestimated them for centuries, and now the galaxy would feel the consequence of that mistake. Not in war, not in fear, but in the quiet, unstoppable resurgence of humanity. Ilias watched the stars, the symbol on his arm pulsing steadily. Humanity had awakened, endured, and acted. The galaxy had been reminded that humans were patient, intelligent, adaptable, and principled. The Empire had ruled for centuries, but now a new era had begun. One where humanity would guide, protect, and restore balance, not through domination, but through endurance, intelligence, and the power of principle. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans could not be underestimated.